serial entrepreneur. My life story is quite interesting. So when I was 7, my dad asked me what I want to be when I grow up. In Cantonese, he said, hey, 你生怎么样? So I took out a white piece of paper and I took out some crayons and I drew 3 pictures of myself. The first picture was me in a business suit with a tie and a suitcase. The second picture was me with a French Pierre cap, a paint palette, and a paintbrush. And the third picture was me behind a church pulpit with the crucifix behind me preaching. So my father asked me, what is this? I said, well, Dad, Monday through Friday, I want to be a businessman and entrepreneur like you. Saturday, I want to be an artist. And Sunday, I'm going to be a preacher. So my father said, "생목자이," smart aleck. Fast forward 30 years later, that's what I do. Now I'm an entrepreneur. I've started over 5 companies. For one period of my time, I was an artist. I like嘻哈, rap. So I rap and do spoken word. And for a period of my time when I was in my 20s, I was a missionary in over 40 countries.
人稱嘻哈牧師嘅馬正遠喺青少年時期曾經偷竊、吸毒，而且差啲入獄。但係因着上帝嘅恩典，令佢獲得重生嘅機會。後來佢致力用媒體嚟宣教，並且以福音改變世界。
So I grew up, mainly in the streets, and I, was kind of a troubled kid. Some people might say I'm a guatai. I was hanging around with a lot of local street gangs, and I got into a lot of trouble. I got kicked out of 3 high schools, and I had basically been arrested twice. I really didn't listen to my mom. My mother was Christian. She would pray for me all the time, and she would always say, Jaeson, change your life. I didn't listen. It would go in one ear, out the other. But my junior year in high school, I got caught stealing at a store that I was working at. They were very high-priced suits, and me and my 2 other coworkers were laundering them to make side cash. At that moment, I had, for a 17-year-old or 16-year-old, I had money, I had cars, I had friends, I had everything a teenager could want at that time as far as money, drugs, whatever I could access. And something inside of me said, even though I have everything, I feel like I have nothing. And I felt very empty inside. And I didn't know why. And I just felt like something needed to change, and I didn't know what it was. And so I said a prayer for the first time. And I said, God, if you're up there, please give me a second chance and let the policeman have mercy on me.
不過神奇嘅事情發生 ，Jaeson 前後去咗3次法院，而法官最終完全赦免咗佢嘅罪，唔使坐監嘅佢，獲得重生機會嘅佢，揾到人生嘅新方向。
I walked in a criminal, I walked out a free man. I found a new purpose in life. I felt that the heavens had given me a second chance. So I found a new inspiration to do good, to serve my community, to serve other young people that were struggling like me. So I stopped dealing drugs, I stopped stealing. I got out of the gang activity. I started going to church, and I started a Bible study in the area that I lived in San Jose, California. And because I liked hip-hop culture, I liked breakdancing and rapping and graffiti art and DJing, I thought, how can I get kids off the streets to find a purpose in life and find faith? So I started a Bible study where they would study the Bible for an hour, and after that, they could pour out the breakdancing linoleum, and they could breakdance and rap and DJ till midnight at this empty church that I would rent out. I was taking my friends from the streets to church and change their lives. And so since that time, I remember telling myself, or telling God, I said, I really just want you to use my life in a way where I can help other young people like myself at the time to find a higher purpose.
他的人生生动而有意思的事情，就是我想他年轻也叛逆过，但是他能够在这个叛逆中自我追寻，去思考，就是自己生命的价值，然后开始就是给自己做一个好的规划。能够学习专业，能够看清楚自己未来是要靠自己努力的，然后呢，改变自己的心性。
I actually ended up going to Bible college. I graduated summa cum laude, 3 different degrees. I had a youth culture degree, I had a Bible and theology degree, but I also had a business management and leadership degree. And then after that, I went to get my master's at Fuller Seminary and in Pasadena. So I ended up going to 40 countries, and I started schools, orphanages, hospital health clinics, churches in over 40 countries during my early mid-20s for about 4.5 years.
Jaeson 喺嗰幾年帶領咗無數嘅青年揾到信仰，佢成立教會，參與佈道，並且傳福音俾好多當紅嘅演藝人員，帶領藝人接受福音。
Church is about a relationship with God and others and yourself. And when people are activated and actualized to do what God created them to do, then the world becomes a better place. So what happened was I switched my ministry from the church at that time and being a missionary and speaking to thousands. And all of a sudden, divinely, I remember around 2007, different Asian influencers or talents or celebrities started coming to ask for help.
这位穿着黑色皮衣、一副黑人嘻哈风格的马正远，您能想象他竟然是位牧师吗？突破传统仪式，用的是创新的饶舌 rap 来传道。现在他还跨界拍电影，找来 F4的吴建豪友情演出。现在马正远从牧师、歌手到导演，这位来自美國加州的饶舌牧師，正顛覆傳統，震撼宗教界。
Jaeson 藉住分享自身經歷，給予藝人朋友陪伴同埋支持，帶領佢哋走過演藝嘅低潮。而上帝透過 Jaeson 將福音帶俾失落嘅人，帶領佢哋走向全新蒙福嘅人生。
God forgives everyone, and God can use anyone if they're willing to be forgiven and to be used.
Jaeson 從亞洲嘅福音事工返到洛杉磯，投資咗一間媒體娛樂公司，認識咗遠東運動同埋 MC Jin， 而 Jaeson 亦都成為其中嘅藝人。當遠東運動嘅 Cath Nish 為佢錄製饒舌歌曲嘅時候，就發現 Jaeson 嘅獨特之處。
But you know, when you preach, when you pray, you know, he goes, it's really powerful. He said, you ever thought about just like preaching or speaking over the hip hop beat? I was like, of course I can. I've been preaching forever. He was like, get in the studio tomorrow night and just record. So I go to the studio and I lace 3 different verses without writing anything. One take, 16 bars, finish the song.
Now Hollywood wants to make you think they know what love is. But I'ma tell you what true love is. Love is not what you see in the movies. It's not the ecstasy. It's not what you see in that scene.
We release it on YouTube, and overnight it gets 1 million views. And I'm just like, totally surprised.
Fill us with your love.
透過歌曲嘅大紅 ，Jaeson 睇到亞裔音樂同埋娛樂喺歐美主流市場發展嘅潛力，更因此奠定咗佢想要融合東西媒體文化嘅理念。佢而家係一位致力於促進東西文化交流嘅創投家。
My passion has always been the simple mission of bridging East and West through media, entertainment, technology, but through stories and talent. I believe that it's through stories and talent that you can change the world. It's through media and entertainment that you can tell those stories. And it's through technology that you can communicate these stories.
2011年嘅 Jaeson 希望成立亞洲數位媒體頻道。
那時候碰到 Jaeson 的時候，我已經開始有這樣的體驗。可是是從一個設計，從一個公司管理、公司文化的角度。我遇到的 Jaeson 其實比較往這個內容跟這個人才 talent 方面來開始。
好奇妙！當佢哋仍喺構思階段嘅時候，上帝就接連俾佢哋預示，甚至經由林書豪嘅故事鼓勵咗佢哋。當時剛到尼克隊打波，尚未出名嘅林書豪請佢哋第2日去球場為佢禱告。
And Jeremy says to me and Phil, hey, can you guys come to my game tomorrow night? It's my first game at Madison Square Garden. I'm super nervous. And he was like, you know, I don't even know if I'm going to get a play. I might just get garbage time, but can you guys come and support me? And me and Phil were like, yeah, we'll come tomorrow night. He's like, oh, thanks, man. Just, pray for me. So he goes off to practice. So the next night, we go to Jeremy Lin's first basketball game in Madison Square Garden. And we're sitting all the way in the upper deck. They don't even give us good seats. His mom and dad are sitting next to me, Auntie Shirley, and he doesn't get to play the whole game until the last 5 minutes. But the last 5 minutes, he comes in and he gets 4 points, 4 assists, 1 rebound, 1 steal. And the crowd just goes crazy. And you feel like electricity in the Madison Square Garden. All of a sudden I look at Phil, my buddy, and I'm like, Phil, you feeling what I'm feeling? He's like, yeah. I'm like, this is an Asian American moment.
The crowd just lit up when he went in. I was confused. You know, as an Asian, I've never seen, you know, a stadium be so excited about an Asian player, but they were so excited for him.
We went downstairs after the game, and I remember Jeremy, he was just like this young, pure, new NBA player. It was like glowing face, sparkles in his eyes, and you just knew something special was gonna happen. And Heiran from Taiwan, he's a former basketball player, celebrity, and Fan, she's a singer. They were there, I had just met them. And we came together and we had a group huddle in prayer.
Father, we want to thank you tonight for giving us the opportunity to celebrate your son, Jeremy, and the gifts and the talents, the callings and the purpose that you've given to him. Lord, we pray that every single day he would live in victory, because victory is not on the court or off the court, God, or what he does or how much he scores. Victory is knowing you, and victory is his salvation in Jesus Christ.
We just knew something was going to happen. The next game was when Jeremy Lin scored over 20 points, and the insanity broke out.
Crowd wants him, puts up the two-pointer, puts it in! Jeremy Lin with 31! How about measuring Gasol? Measuring him and leveling Gasol off. Lin for 3. Bang! The Jeremy Lin Show continues here at Madison Square Garden. Inside.
And I was in LA watching it on my iPad. And I just thought to myself, oh my gosh. And in 72 hours, Jeremy Lin became the most known Asian American in the whole world. And we knew it was a miracle. And I realized that's what happens when one Asian talent breaks on a global stage in a digital era. It impacts the whole world. But he wasn't just a great basketball player. He was a person of character. He was a leader. He was someone that was a good example for other young people, especially young Asian people, to look up to. And that's when I knew I had to start.
Witnessing Jeremy, you know, an Asian basketball player, succeed in a predominantly Western game, you know, was more confirmation. And so I did believe in what Jaeson and, you know, kind of the vision that we received that day around Asian talent, the stories that need to be told. It wasn't just about technology and design. It was going to expand into media, into talent, and eventually culture too, right? The cultural influence and this kind of soft power.
And we started representing talent from Asia to Hollywood and talent from Hollywood to Asia.
之後嘅日子 ，Jaeson 接連成立唔同嘅公司，致力成為東西方媒體交流嘅橋梁。佢當時諗點樣令年輕人真正喜歡亞裔娛樂，並且將內容融入生活中呢？ Jaeson 揾咗 Sean Miyashiro 喺2015年成立咗目前美國當紅嘅大眾媒體公司。佢哋喺網絡上揾咗好多有潛力嘅新星，同佢哋呢一啲真實冇過度包裝嘅藝人簽約，為佢哋製作更合適嘅音樂作品，保留佢哋獨特嘅氣質。旗下藝人以亞裔歌手為主，包括 Rich Brian、更高兄弟、Nicky Yogi 等等。佢哋鮮明嘅歌曲風格深受年輕群族歡迎。音樂影片喺 YouTube 獲得1000萬點擊，甚至上億嘅觀看次數。
60% of the world's young people are Asian. That's over 2 billion people. That's the majority of the planet. And we don't have a platform that represents those voices and our culture and our talent and our stories and our music. And from there, I was just very, very thankful that I could be part of this movement and part of this journey.
He has so much charisma, you know, has a face, his personality is very electric. He also had the same kind of personality or heart, like get the best out of people that he finds talented. I think the other special quality he has is he's an amazing evangelist for whatever things he believes in, you know, whether it's the gospel, whether it's the technology, whether it's a particular talent. He's very good at telling the story of other people, but also people he believes in.
Although on the outside, people go, oh, wow, Jaeson Ma, he's a serial entrepreneur. He started these different companies that started these different movements to move and progress Asian culture forward. They don't know the drama behind the scenes. They don't know the infighting and the bankruptcies and all the things that could go wrong when you're starting a company. It's not easy. But a true leader is not deterred by their circumstances or what's going on right now. Their conviction is in the future. And so you have to have a vision for the future. And if you continue to do what you believe is right, not what people like, but to do what's right. A leader doesn't do what people like. A leader does what's right. For me, I've had really dark moments where there was no one there supporting me. There was no one, willing to help me out. There were partners that backstabbed me and, turn, their backs against me to try to take what I had. But time and time again, I would just have to recognize, okay, did I do anything wrong? I had to be introspective. Before I point the finger at someone else, I have to point the finger at myself and say, could I have done better? Could I have pivoted? Could I have gotten better advice? And so every single time, I failed, I looked at it as a stepping stone to my next success. And if you continue to push forward doing what's right in your conviction and your mission, eventually things will come together. An entrepreneur will always find ways to move forward. You never accept defeat, you never say no, and you learn from your mistakes, and you emerge victorious if you don't give up.
Jaeson 回想喺事業低谷嘅時候，接到一個電話，得知媽媽罹患癌症第4期，佢再次遇到人生嘅抉擇，係咪要離開媒體投資產業，返到屋企人身邊陪伴照顧佢哋呢？
So at the time, I just decided to put my business on hold, put my ministry on hold, and for 1 year I went back to Sacramento to go take care of my mother. During that 1 year, I got to spend quality time with my mother, but around the worst part of her battle with cancer, she had an infection and went into the ICU. And the doctors gave her less than 30 days to live. She went from 110 pounds to less than 70 pounds. So it got to the point where the doctor said, Jaeson, you need to just sign the paper as her family member, as her son, because she's not gonna make it past another night or two. And at that time I said, you know what? I don't wanna believe this, and I have faith that my mother's gonna live. She's a strong woman. She's been through a lot. She's been through more, and I know she's gonna get through this one. And so I didn't sign the paper, and me and my sisters and my father prayed and prayed and prayed for my mother.
You're my heartbeat, you're my heartbeat. Dear Mom, this song's for you. Dear Mom, I wanna let you know that I'm thankful for all the love you've shown. I love you. With everything you've given me, I can never repay you. You sacrificed everything for me, and I'm grateful. I would have never.
And a miracle happened. They had 6 surgeries to close a wound this big in her stomach with literally acid coming out, and morphine could not help her. Screaming at the top of their lungs, and they said, we have one more surgery, and if this doesn't work, we can't close it, it's over. I remember this pastor came and he said, your mother's gonna walk out of this hospital on her own 2 feet on her next birthday. And I looked at him and I was like, what's the chances of that? She's literally about to die. But we kept faith, we kept praying, and they had that final surgery, and somehow they closed a hole in her stomach. And all of a sudden she started recovering. And literally, sometime later, on her 62nd birthday, she walked out of the hospital on her own 2 feet. And I remember after she walked out of the hospital, and the next week we went to the chemo radiation center to check where the cancer was in her body. The doctor came out with the test reports and just shock in his face, and he says, I've never seen this before. And we said, what do you mean? He said, just a month ago, the cancer had spread throughout her body. But now when we've checked her, there's not one sign of cancer. It's completely gone. And we said, what? And he's like, I have no answers. This can't be proven by science. This has to be a miracle. It's now been 6 years, and my mother is fully cancer-free. Had I not had that moment of facing death and facing reality and recognizing my humanity, that it doesn't matter how successful I am in business, it doesn't matter how much influence I have in culture, it doesn't matter how much money I make in my bank account, the only thing that matters is the people that matter in your life. And I realized at that time, wow, life is short. You have to make the most of it. And you never know when the people closest to you may go. And so for that year, I realized, you know what? Representing Asian culture in mainstream media, that can wait. You know, my ministry, that can wait. None of that matters in the light of what matters the most, which is your family, which is your faith. And so I think when you begin to realize that you're just human, you're not God, and that you can't control your circumstances, you realize success is just being thankful. Just being thankful every day for what you've been given and what you have, and doing the most that you can do with it, the way you know how to do it, the best you can. To me, success is doing what you're purposed and called and created to do. If God created you to be a dancer, dance. If God created you to be a computer engineer, type code. If God created you to serve your country through government and politics, serve well. If God created you to sing, sing your best. So God created every person for a purpose. Every one of us are designed for a specific task or destiny that only you can do. So success to me is not becoming rich or famous or having a lot of fancy cars and nice houses and millions of followers. Success is doing what you're called and created to do, being the best version of who you are. And the only person you should compete against is no one else but yourself. Life will humble you. After my first media company, I had millions of views, thousands of followers. You know, when I was a preacher, I used to speak in front of 10,000 young people at a time. But external success, money, fame, power, sex, you know, food, whatever it is, body, soul, spirit that makes you feel better about yourself is temporary. These things come today, go tomorrow. They don't last. Nothing is forever. The only thing that's forever is your soul and your spirit and who you are. That's what lives on. It's your character. It's your legacy. What do you leave behind? Humility means you own who you really are, and you own your mistakes, and you learn from them, and you make yourself better by changing yourself, changing your priorities, and becoming a better version of you.
Jaeson 嘅旅程仲未結束，佢運用自身嘅經驗、獨到嘅遠見，帶領亞洲文化走向主流。成功嘅意義係乜嘢呢？馬正遠委身基督，將生命擺上，鼓舞年輕人，影響東西文化交流，活出咗非凡嘅人生。
现在就让我用这首饶舌来告诉你这一个惊天动地的天大好消息。你知不知道那是关于上帝他爱你，为你的生命有个计划，真是奇妙的无比。但是我们的罪使我们与上帝隔离，无法体会人生真正的丰盛意义。不论宗教善行道德或是哲学道理，都无法完全解决人的罪这永恒问题。于是他差耶稣基督来到世界上，为我们的罪他被钉死在十字架上。他3天后他死里复活，证明他是道路正义生命神和人的桥梁。他说我站在你的心门外叩门，你是否愿意让我进入你的人生，再次重拾那份失落的破裂关系？闭上眼睛大声说，上帝我真的需要你。
我再次来到你的宝座前，向你完全证明我的心愿，愿你圣洁荣光照亮我的心 自己并不完全。上帝，我再次来到你的宝座前，向你支取我不配的恩典，就像欠债仆人来到他主人面前，而他的罪被完全赦免。
Check this out， 于是他差耶稣基督来到世界上，为我们的罪他被钉死在那十字架上，但3天后他死里复活，证明他是道路真理生命神和人的桥梁。他说我站在你的心门外叩门，你是否愿意让我进入你的人生，再次重拾那份失落的破裂关系，闭上眼睛大声说上帝我真的需要。从此我不再看我生命当中的软弱误会，而是定睛在耶稣基督奇妙作为。于是我回过头看见耶稣的手被钉在十字架上，他的宝血为我而流。原来这就是真爱代价，就在那2000年前的各个他上的十字架。于是我回过头交出我的手，上帝这一辈子我要跟你走。